Good evening, 12s, and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast. We are back to discuss some football between the heavyweights. Apparently, this season, the Rams, the Seahawks divisional matchup, in my opinion, probably one of the best games of the year, just based on where both teams are, how evenly matched they are. So, super excited to preview this game with you. Tino, how are you living?
We good. We making it happen. That's how we living. We
Making
trying to
it
make it
happen.
happen.
Making it
That's
happen.
right.
Well, how you feeling about the Seahawks? I mean, we haven't been able to chop it up in a minute. How you feeling about the
hmm
team? Where things are? You still in the same place? I think they've met your seven win marker already. So
I thought I
curious
said eight or
what
nine.
this is. You bumped it up like
I thought I said
about
eight or nine.
one later, but like yeah.
So
But yeah,
to
what's your
answer your
thoughts on the team?
question, obviously this is the number one ranked DVOA team in football. DVOA means quite a bit. It's a stat that I think is a quality stat. I'm surprised. I did not expect this team to be as good as it is, but I think it's time for me to admit that that this is a 10-win team. It's a double digit win team. I don't. I still have some questions, but I think this team is certainly better than I thought it was. And I think Sam Darnold and the coaching are the two reasons why this team is much better. I did not have confidence in either, and I now have confidence in both. This game's going to be phenomenal. People are calling it the DVOA Bowl, right? It's stop. It's the number one and number two DVOA teams in football. They're very, very similar, as you mentioned. We'll break that down quite a bit more, but the reality is it's two very, very evenly matched teams. This should have been the primetime game, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I'm super, super excited to watch. Super excited to watch this game. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I think what makes this the most intriguing for me, looking into this game, is you got, when Coach McDonald was hired, he was kind of deemed like the Sean McVay
Trubisky.
of defense, right?
Mhm.
And I think based on what these two teams have put on tape to this point, it's really matched the billing. So you got Sean McVay versus the Sean McVay of defense. Basically, these two great offensive mind, defensive mind, chess match pieces. In terms of the Rams with their use of 13 personnel, and people have been talking about that, which is something that they kind of
Mhm.
fell into after Puka Nakua got hurt. But they
Mhm.
sort of kind of leaned into even more so just because it's really difficult for teams to defend. But the Seahawks are uniquely set to potentially match this kind of offense personnel should the Rams decide to go with that approach because of a Nick Emmanwori and his impact and his ability to cover tight ends or even quick slotty receivers. Like he's really been able to just sort of run with the best of them. They've been able to hold up in nickel looks and
Right.
still have a strong run defense. And that's really not easy to do. Most teams feel like they
Mhm.
have to be in their base defense, but Mike McDonald's made sure he's got the personnel in place to make sure that they can hold up at the point of attack. And so therefore his guys get to eat. They get to rush the passer because they can absolutely stop the run. And it feels like so long ago that this team had, you know, like
Mhm.
one of the worst
Holes.
run defenses in history at certain points, because they just weren't able to stop the run. And now, just a few years later, they can stop the run, in nickel. Like that's crazy to me.
Right. I do think Jaron Reed going on the IR is going to impact this defensive line.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because the depth on the D line was something that was if Mike Morris is coming off the bench or has occasional snaps, he can come in and give something. Now you got Mike Morris in a starting role, right, for Jaron Reed. Now Brandon Peely is going to play a lot more likely,
Mhm.
and those are names that are decent names, but it's not Jaron Reed, right? And so I do wonder if how much lack of depth starts to impact the D line, and if the run defense is quite the same without being able to rotate as many people in as they have, that makes me a little bit nervous. But I do think in this particular game, the I don't know that either team is going to be able to run the ball. I think both teams are going to run the ball to set up the pass, to set up the play action. That's what these teams have done. Both teams have done up to this point in time. And I think your point about the 13 personnel is interesting. I think if they continue to go to that and the Seahawks have to start playing Peely, right? They have to start playing some of these depth pieces on the D line that might not, I hope that they can hold up. And so that does make me a little bit nervous. However, Ernest Jones being back and being maybe not 100% healthy, but and being motivated by this game. He said that this game is no different than any other game for the most part. And he got his, he signed his contract, all those things, but they dealt him away. They didn't want him. They discarded him. Someone who's arguably a top three, top five off ball linebacker in football. They didn't want him anymore. So you can't tell me that he's not charged up, right, and ready to go. I don't think it's a coincidence that both Cooper Cup and Ernest Jones are team captains this week, right?
Yes.
Because McDonald names different captains every week. You know that they're going to try to use this as motivation. So I think this is going to be such a chess match, right? This is going to be such an interesting game to watch. Can that 13 personnel wear down the offensive line? Is Kyron Williams going to have a big day and Seattle give up yards on the ground for the first time? I think that's something that could happen, unfortunately. But I will also say that now off-ball linebacker for the Hawks actually looks like a position of depth, which is so crazy to say,
Yeah.
given where this began the season last year, right? With Jerome Baker and I always forget his name, old boy, that was starting linebacker.
Tyrell Dotson.
Dotson, Tyrell Dotson, that's right. You go from Tyrell Dotson and Jerome Baker to Ernest Jones, Drake Thomas, who's looked like a superstar the last couple of weeks, at least made explosive plays, and Tyrese Knight, who has made huge splash plays for this team. So I know that's going to impact the run defense as well. And then to your point, Eamon Worry being on the field is essentially a third linebacker in the run game, right?
Yeah.
Which is nuts. So the flexibility of being able to have a third linebacker in the run game when you're in nickel, but also be able to cover, as you said, like a big corner is crazy. I'm so excited for this game. I McVay and Stafford make me very nervous as a Hawks fan. I just think that they're so brilliant and so talented at what they do. And I know we'll talk about it in a minute too, but you really don't have two more productive wide receivers on the same team as the Rams do with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So yeah, chess match, absolute chess match in this game. It's
Yeah.
gonna be awesome. It's
Yeah.
gonna be freaking awesome.
Let's stick with the defensive side of the ball for now.
Yep.
In your opinion, are the Seahawks most vulnerable? Like, where can you see them potentially losing this game, and then where can you see them like what
You
can give
know,
you the edge?
I think that McVay is going to try to put the safeties in conflict. I think he's going to try to get because if you look at just the personnel, right, it's Spoon is going to hold up, right? You can probably challenge Woolen with some stuff, but the reality is he is uber talented. He's playing well. The secondary, I think, is the corners at least are awesome. They're top notch. It's an elite unit, right? The running or the linebackers can cover. We have linebackers that can cover now. The D line, I think you can. I think the two places I would attack if I was Sean McVay, and what I think we will see is I think they're going to attack a depleted, as I said, D line. Right? They're going to try to get Peely in the game. They're going to try to get Mike Morris, tired. Mike Morris is expected to play 100% of the snaps essentially, or almost. And then again, if it's me, I'm challenging Ty Okada and Kobe Bryant. Right? I'm trying to get them in positions where because they're not as talented as the rest of the defense is, and so that's what I think will happen with the wide receivers, and they're going to force the safeties to make some choices that are going to be difficult. That's what I would attack. That's what I think we're going to see happen. But I do expect them to try to run the ball a ton. Whether they're successful or not, I don't know yet. But I think the Rams are going to try to run the ball a ton, and then they're going to throw at the safeties and play action.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Which I think I think that the Seahawks are um, uniquely built to handle. The Jaron Reed injury does concern me for sure. I say
Hmm.
the other thing that concerns me when the defense is on the field is that they have struggled to cover tight ends. They have,
Hmm.
I think it's been an intentional thing by their part. I think they've been fine getting eaten up by Dalton Schultz or whatever. Like I don't think they've minded those. They've tried to shut down the wide receivers, and so that's been their focus. But the Rams have been able to make their tight ends a really big part of their offense now. Does that then come back to hunt them? Was that something that was just a tactical, strategy in those games? Or is it possible for them to shut down both Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams? And,
Right.
if they're going to have all three of the tight ends in the game, and then if not, I'm sure. I mean, you can't cover everybody. So who are they willing to give up?
Concede some yards
Plays
too.
to
Yeah.
concede those
Yeah.
plays to. I'm curious as to how the Seahawks will approach that because I do see that as a vulnerability potentially while they're on defense.
So you sparked two thoughts for me. One is, I think with regards to the tight ends, if Tyler Higbee is going to beat you, and you can take away Devonte Adams a bit and Puka Nakua a bit, I think you live with that. I think the Seahawks are going to continue to do what they've done this year, which is bend but don't break. Right? They're going to give up some yards. They're going to be in the red zone, and they're going to give up field goals instead of touchdowns. I think that's something that we will see from them. The other thing that you brought up that you sparked for me that I wanted to talk about is, and we kind of alluded to it a couple weeks ago. This is the game where I think we're going to see so many different defensive play calls that we just haven't seen from the Seahawks. We're going to see so many different pressures that we haven't seen before. This is where the creativity and the mad genius of Mike McDonald is supposed to come out, right? He was hired for this game. He was hired for a situation where both teams come in with two losses at the top of the NFC West. And it's, can you match the wits and the brains of Sean McVay? So we talked about how vanilla sometimes the defense has been because it's been able to be effective without showing all of its cards. This is where you throw all your cards on the table and you say, this is who we are, right? I think we're going to see some really interesting exotic pressures. I think we're going to see Eamon Wari as a chess piece in a much different manner in this game, and that, I think they're going to use some of those new things. We're going to see who they're trying to take away. In my opinion, in this game, you take away as much as you can from Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams, right? Especially over the top. I
Yes.
think we'll see a secondary that plays a bit conservative at times. They're going to try to get pressure on the quarterback, and they're going to try to play a bit conservative, I think, in and deep, because you can't let them get over the top. They're going to concede some first downs to those guys. But hey, if Higbee goes 10 for 100, I still think they win this game. I think if Tyler Higbee is their best offensive player, I think the Seahawks win. It's Nakua and Adams and Kyron Williams we have to worry about. But again, I think we see a different Seahawks defense and a different Coach McDonald than we've seen in 2 years. That's cool. That's going to be fun because he has so many pieces to work with now, specifically Eamon Wari. It's going to, like I said, it's going to be freaking awesome. This game's going to be amazing.
Yeah. No, for
I'm
sure.
pumped.
I
I'm pumped.
I go back and forth. I do like your premise of taking away the explosion game, but really, where the Rams have gotten the Seahawks repeatedly, it's not explosive plays. It's the
Mhm.
plays over the middle. It's that
The
intermediate
crossers.
game
Yeah.
that
The
Stafford,
crossers.
yeah, that he could just dink and dunk you to death, and it's death by a thousand cuts, and so
Right.
you know,
Or 18 yard in route, right? From Nakua
right,
or from Devontae in front of the safety, but behind the corners, that sort of thing that they can do over and over again that Stafford can throw in his sleep. I
yes.
absolutely think you're right. I absolutely think you're right.
So I'm more
So I
worried about stopping the intermediate game for them. Not to
sure.
say that Stafford can't beat you over the top, but I feel like if you're gonna lose a different way. Almost, type of thing.
Sure,
Like
right.
yeah, like
I
I
like it.
just I don't want to see them dinging and dunking down the field with the same old,
Yeah.
process. Like if they're gonna get beat off the top because Puka and Devontae Adams are great players, then I feel like I personally as a fan can just live with that a little bit better. I mean, it's still gonna
Right.
hurt either way, but I
Yeah.
just don't want to see them dinking and dunking down the field, death by a thousand cuts type of thing. I don't know if I can stop. don't know if I can stomach that,
You know,
honestly.
I would say though that the Seahawks off-ball linebackers and Nicky Minwari are so different in terms of their athleticism, in terms of their explosion, in terms of their ability to make big plays that I think those guys are going to make a huge difference in the middle of this defense, right? They're going to be you. It's not the same as going against Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks and who knows at safety, right? It's this is very different, and you've got to be cautious as an offensive player coming across the middle because these guys can hit. I think we'll see a lot of zone where those guys are in the middle of that zone. Which I think will take away quite a bit of that. So this is a little bit off topic, but this talking about safeties and hitting and going over the middle, I would be remiss if we didn't mention Kenny Easley, the
Right.
Seahawks safety who passed away, I believe, earlier this morning or last night.
Yeah.
Um, Number 45, one of my absolute favorite Seahawks of all time as a kid. Like we all tried to, if you played football on the playground in Seattle, like we did, if you were playing safety or you were playing in the secondary, we tried to imitate Kenny Easley, right? We couldn't hit because we were playing on concrete, but he was just, he was a phenomenal Seahawk. When I think about the Seahawks, especially in those days, it's Kurt Warner at running back and it's Kenny Easley, as the safety. And those are kind of the two places that I start. So it was a childhood hero of mine. It's unfortunate that there was a break between the Seahawks and Easley for quite a long time because he had kidney issues that he was frustrated about the painkillers that the Seahawks had given him that created some kidney issues. But Paul Allen, when he took over the team, invited Easley back. They had put him in the Seahawks Hall of Fame, the Ring of Honor. Um, but just a class human being and one of my absolute favorite defensive players of all time. And I remember that 45 in that royal blue uniform, and he was intimidating. He was the man. So rest in peace, Kenny Easley. I wanted to acknowledge him as well.
Absolutely. Rest in peace and prayers for him and his family. It was before I started watching football at all for me, but I absolutely have a great respect for his impact on the franchise and just what he means to people yeah,
Mhm.
in Seattle, but also just in general because he was that great of a player. So definitely great call out by you.
Mhm.
I feel like we could switch over to the offense, but I actually did want to mention one thing I just looked up really quick. But and when you mentioned about Mike Morris and his snaps, it looks like last week in week 10, he only played about 25% of the snaps. And it looks like what
Mhm.
they did instead was they upped up the usage of a Leo Williams and Byron Murphy, who played about 75% of the snaps. Brandon Peely only played 24% of the snaps. So I don't think they will overuse. I think they understand the limitations that those guys have on the
Sure.
field, and they will continue to keep them rotational. You just really have to hope that guys like Leo Williams and Byron Murphy can hold up until January get back. With that
When you
increased usage.
got we end up that means we end up in a situation though where if you lose one of those guys even for a series or two, it's going to get ugly quickly. The
Right.
other thing is, we all know especially on the D line, your effectiveness decreases the more you have to play, which is why
Correct.
teams like to rotate so many of those big bodies in. So
Correct.
we might not see the same level of play from Murphy and Williams if over the next couple of weeks they have to play a higher percentage of snaps. Now they might be able to hold up just fine, but I think you're starting to take more risks when they have to play as much as they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely hoping Jaron Reed gets back soon. Because
Mhm.
that's not. I don't love that idea, but I understand why they're in the situation that they are
Well,
in. For sure.
they put him on IR, so I think it's 4 weeks
Yeah, it is.
that we're going to have to
Well,
wait.
three more, two more after this week. So, I
Yes,
I mean, assuming he can get back right when the 4 week window
right,
ends, that's also an assumption that may not be correct. But
right.
okay, moving over to the offense.
Hmm.
One of the things that is most interesting and that is relevant from the Arizona Cardinal game, not much is relevant from that game, but one of the significant uh, happenings was the injury of Jalen Sundale, who is expected to
Hmm.
be sidelined for multiple weeks, out with a knee. They're still being really weird about that injury. So, uh, Oluwatimi he
Hmm.
was able to come back in, and while you saw issue with snap, I don't think that will be a continuous issue. I mean, he's coming in off the bench all year. But what did happen, and it's a I mean, I don't know what it's a combination of, but I do know that Olu plays a role, and that they were able to actually have a run out the clock, finish the game through the run. They know you're about to run and you can run it anyway type of
Hmm.
drives, and really type of set like latter half. They really were just able to
Hmm.
run the ball effectively, which Um, we had not seen at all. So
That that 4 minute offense
yeah,
where you're yeah where you're trying to get grind out first downs and deflate the other team. You know me, I love that kind of football. That's my kind of football, and I do think that obviously size alone doesn't give you a running game, but Sundell is an undersized center. And so he's going to try to out leverage you as opposed to be able to get real push. And
mhm,
I think Oluwatimi's one of the things he can do is he can lean on you a bit because he's a much bigger guy.
right.
And I would also expect the Seahawks to try to, not because his pass protection isn't going to be as good as Sundell either in a lot of ways, right? And so your offense may have to shift slightly because of that. Not that you define your offense based on what a center can do necessarily,
It's
but you got to
also
set him up. You got to set him up to succeed, right? You got to be able to, if you put him in pass blocking situations over and over again against quick, talented D tackles, he's going to lose. And so I do think we might see them at least try to run the ball a little more, because that's a great call out on your part, a great call out.
yeah. I think they'll be able to run the ball more effectively, and I had a suspicion that this was going to happen anyway, so that's why I said I'm not sure. I know that Olu plays a part, but I also felt like we haven't even talked about the trade, right? Shaheed, we were talking about trade prospects. I think the last time we hopped on,
And
but
I think we brought him up because I
yes,
thought he was going to Buffalo. Um, I love it. So we talked a ton in the off season about we teased about MVS, right? We were kind of
yes,
clowning that MVS is a scrub and they got him just for his straight line speed and how important is it to take the top off the defense. So take what we said about MVS and how we wanted a receiver to take the top off the defense. Add even more speed to that player and production to that player in Shaheed, but then
right,
also his ability to take screens and be shifty on screens and be a threat on screens. And now you've got a kick returner as well. I think he is the absolute perfect complement to JSN, right? Stretches the
yeah,
defense. You have to account for him because he's so fast. Now it's, JSN's going to have more room to operate. It seems really simple to say, but the reality is we didn't have that, right? And so I think I like the fact that they tried to give the ball to Rashid a bit um, last week, but it looked at times like they were forcing it a little bit to him. It didn't feel as organic. I'm very interested to see what over time, over the next couple of weeks, what does his role become in this offense? Because I think they are going to be a better offense the more balanced they get. And the reality is it's not balanced right now. It's all JSN, right?
yeah,
So I'm super excited about that trade. I think it might have been the smartest trade of the deadline in a lot of ways in the NFL. I think it was a stroke of genius by John Schneider again, and really does change the dynamic of this Seahawks offense.
yes.
100% does.
I agree for a lot of reasons, and that's I brought him up because I felt like that was going to help the run game because, like
Hmm.
you said, they were going to have to account for him. The Seahawks have been playing stacked boxes, like I think first in the league, right? And
Hmm.
so I was excited to see, okay, someone else, bringing that safety out out of their box, giving some more run room. So I feel like it's a combination between just the presence of
Hmm.
Shaheed along with you got Olu in there, and then they're still kind of doing this split carry thing with the backs. I don't think they'll change that at this point, but anywho, I'm
Well,
excited to
so
see how that impacts the run game.
if I can say another um, aspect of Shaheed is that he stretches the field horizontally. What I mean by that is he catches a ton of screens, right? It's something he's really effective at.
Mhm.
And so if the defense has to account for that quick screen to the wide receiver, someone who can take it to the house if he can make somebody miss. Now you're stretching the defense horizontally. The other thing is he's great on jet sweeps and stuff like that.
Right.
And so that also will create running room, right? We see it all the time, like the fake jet sweep and then the run up the middle. It's because you're pulling linebackers and safeties to account for that jet sweep, and now you've got them stretched and you're creating holes. And so it's just like, as I said, it's literally like the perfect wide receiver that's not a superstar. His skill set or profile is exactly what this team needed, and I think you're right. It is going to create some seam. The other thing is you want those seams in a outside zone. You're looking for a seam. You're looking to plant your foot and go right, and having that speed and stretching that defense is more likely to create those seams in outside zone. So yeah, they're pushing all the right buttons. There's still a portion of me that's waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know why. It's just I'm going to hold on to that all season, I guess. But they're pushing all the right buttons, right? Even now, don't let your jaw drop when I say this. Even Abe Lucas is, has been a surprise to me. We knew we knew he's talented, right? But he's staying healthy. He's gotten some untimely penalties, but he's played really well, right? It's this team is just clicking, and it's really really fun to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you all cut that part out, right?
Not at all. No, I'm gonna put it on. What's gonna happen is I want to clip it, and
The headline.
it's gonna be the first short of our whole podcast. You're gonna see it on
Yeah,
YouTube Shorts, and I just have it on repeat.
you caught me in a tired, vulnerable moment. That's what this is. Me admitting that they're a double digit win team, that I was wrong about Darnold, that Abe Lucas is healthy and playing well.
Yep. Um, but to your point about the Sahi trade, one other thing that I think is underrated about this trade, that you didn't hadn't brought up yet is just Toby Horton's hurt.
Hmm.
And frankly, I see this game a whole lot differently without a Tory Horton. I just feel like it makes them more vulnerable. And this is what I was concerned about. That was my shoe. And I kept mentioning I felt like when they get to week 8, week 9, and when teams start really putting all the resources towards JSN, I was concerned that you're now relying on rookies. You're now forcing Tory Horton to step up in big moments that will be meaningful football, and Arroyo, who are talented players in their own right and who I'm
Hmm.
excited about. But I just don't love putting your season on the line, with those guys. You want some folks with some experience, in my opinion, and that's exactly what they've went and gotten. And I think they needed the depth. It turned out because you lost Jake Bobo, you lost Derek Young, you've lost Tory Horton. I
Hmm.
mean, man, if not for that trade, your wide receiver room would be an absolute hell right now. Just
Right,
frankly,
disaster
yeah, it'd be
outside of
disaster.
Jackson. Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right, and it's Cooper Cup isn't always healthy, right? Even when he
Yes.
does play, he's nicked up. Just his
Yep.
style of play. So yeah, they clearly needed both depth and the skill set that Shaheed brings. I think it makes it a very very different looking offense. Um, and they didn't give up a ton. They gave up decent picks, but the reality is he might be around for 2 years. He wants to stay. He said that when he arrived. He was like, I want to be on, like, I want to stay. I want to be on this team. And yeah, if that element of speed is now a part of this team for the next couple of years, the offense can look very, very, very different. Very different.
Yes.
And
No.
Horton is allowed to develop and Arroyo's allowed to develop at the speed that will
Yes.
make them even better down the road, right? Sometimes when you put them out there and they take lumps, their development regresses a little bit,
Yes.
or it
Yes.
it is a little bit slower. Now, when Horton comes back, you can start to sprinkle him in more in situations to set him up to succeed, as opposed to him having to be on the field 100% of the time. The other cool thing, think about in 27 or 26, you're going to be able to have Horton, Shaheed, and JSN, starting the season together, those three receivers on the field. That is a very good wide receiving core right there. That's
Yes.
fun.
Very
That's
excited.
fun.
Very
Hmm.
excited.
It's gonna
And
be Jalen Milrow throwing all three of those guys. It's gonna be on.
LOL. Speaking of quarterback, there's been an interesting narrative around Sam Darnold for this particular matchup, and I've heard some people imply that because he struggled with the Rams in both games, I think didn't really look his best, and particularly towards the end of the season. Um, that that's kind of bound to happen again. I've heard some people have that approach. Before I get into my thoughts, what do you think in regards to how he responds to this matchup this time around?
I don't think, honestly, the way he's been playing, I don't think that it matters. I think that he's just, I think he's super confident right now, and he's making really good decisions, and he's incredibly accurate right now. And Kubiak's on a roll, right? Kubiak's on fire as far as the play calling goes. The one worry is that McVay knows Darnold's mind pretty intimately, right? He knows his hiccups. He knows like the types of coverages that he might not recognize immediately. He understands who Sam Darnold is because he was in the building, and so you know that the Rams are going to try to mix him up a little bit with some of the stuff that they understand about him. But I don't think the history of Darnold with Rams, the history of Darnold, the way that he played while he was there, that sort of thing. I think he's on fire right now. And
Well, I think he was
um,
on the 49ers. He wasn't on the Rams. The
right, oh, I
same.
was thinking about,
Yeah, Shanahan. That
is
that
that
the,
right?
the Rams game was the playoff game. You know, the
Oh,
Vikings
you know who I'm thinking about? I'm
he
sorry,
had
I'm thinking about
9
Baker
sacks
Mayfield.
and
I think I'm thinking
how
about
bad he
Baker
looked
Mayfield.
down the stretch, that sort of thing.
Right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, but so I lean towards your take though, in that I think to me one of the most important things to consider in the differences between him against them last year with the Vikings and him now is this offense is made for him to get the ball out quick. He's been doing a great job. In fact, I think he's one of the top five. He lives around there in terms of getting the ball out quick.
Hmm.
Very. I mean, that's part of the reason why it's hard to get to him. And the O line, yes, has improved, but it's also just that Sam Darnold's been getting the ball out, and so Kevin O'Connell's offense is really more based around long developing routes, that type of thing.
Hmm.
And I think that really came to bite him, and the Vikings just did not have an answer. I would anticipate that as long as Darnold doesn't get in his own head about that
Hmm.
situation, I think he'll be
Hmm.
fine because I think he's going to get the ball out quick enough to negate them getting to him too much. And also, that Vikings offensive line at that point in the year was completely beat up. And while we do have a center out, we got another starting caliber center that is taking his place, and that has started before for us. So
I think Darisaw missed that game. They're all pro left tackle.
yes, yeah,
Um, and
quite a few people
he
were
was
out.
a huge portion of that offensive line success. The other thing is, you kind of alluded to this. Kubiak is putting Darnold in all the positions to succeed based on Sam Darnold's skill set, right? We're not asking him to do things that he can't do.
Mhm.
And he sped up his ability to read defenses to the point where he's able to make really quick decisions and get the ball out fast, right? They're calling their play calls. They're not calling these long developing routes where, without play action. If you're going to call a long developing route, it's going to be coupled with play action and typically a rollout, which is going to buy him time. So I think it's a combination of Darnold maturing and getting smarter and calling plays that fit him, not necessarily plays that fit a Justin Jefferson or whatever the offense is that Minnesota wanted to run. So no, I don't think he's going to see ghosts or be impacted by his history against the Rams in this particular game. I think they're on too much of a roll. They're on too much of a roll for that to be a factor.
Yeah.
Um, they're gonna have to get in. I think they're gonna, if anything, if they get in their own way, if they try to get too cute, we know Kubiak on occasion will call silliness instead of sticking to what he needs to do. If they try to force the run too much because they think that that's what they're going to be able to do against this team. They just stick with what you've been doing. Give, JSN 15, 18 targets if you can, and try to run the ball enough to be able to get them to respect the run and run a bunch of play action because that's what Donald does well.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think they'll be good with just sticking with their plan.
Hmm.
There's also been a lot made about the turnovers, which I don't take a ton of things. I think a lot of those turnovers have been circumstantial,
Hmm.
in my opinion, because frankly I think they've been ahead so much I think they start calling the back of the playbook, like, the parts they want no one to know. No one's really talked about this. I haven't heard on any of the preview shows, but or
Right.
anything from the Seahawks side. But I just personally feel like it's got to be hard to call a game, and you don't want to put unnecessary things on tape, but you also still
Hmm.
have like a whole half of football left to play. And so I don't think they do stuff that they would normally would have done on purpose. And I think you can see the clumsiness and the weird quirky plays and the turnovers that get loose because they're actually extremely efficient. They're one of the top offenses in the league overall anyway, but especially
Right.
when they are tied or behind. What has been
Right.
their problem is when they have a large lead and then they turn into like I think it's like the 25th ranked offense or something like that. I just think they get loosey goosey. Now they can't afford to do that, but I don't think this game will call for them to have a lot of opportunities to get loosey
It's going
goosey.
to be
I
too
think it'll be a close
close.
game.
Yeah,
Right.
it's going to be too close. You
Yep.
know, what I will say though, so I have that reaction when I see Darnold start to turn the ball over because of who he was as a quarterback when he was younger,
Right.
right? He would fumble, he would throw interceptions where he's pulling your hair out as a fan of that team, saying like, what is he doing? Um, I think because he has that history is why people react.
Hmm.
People are waiting for him to revert back to that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see any rational reason to think he will because of how he's played this year, right? I think it's just a historical thing that people are holding on to. Problem is, we know that's still in him.
Yeah.
That's in some form.
Yeah.
Um,
It is.
but as long as I think as long as Kubiak continues to set him up to succeed with his play calling, I don't think we're going to see that side of him. I just don't. Not
I
unless you
would
start calling stuff that's calling stuff that's not, in his wheelhouse. You ask him to do other stuff, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it. But just ask him to do what he can do.
Yep. I will say I do have some questions when you get. I think right now he'd be fine. I do have some questions about when you get late in the season. Of course, when you get playoff contention, those type of things. I do have concerns about that. Not to say that I don't think he will eventually overcome those things, but I know everybody's been really hard. I just a side note, everybody's been really hard on Darnold about those games. When the reality is, Lamar Jackson still stinks in the playoffs. Josh Allen struggled
Mhm.
in his few playoff games. So I think people don't
Mhm.
really cut enough slack for how difficult it is to be an elite quarterback at the absolute highest level of the NFL when you're there for your first time. I'm willing to give
Right.
him some grace. So even if he doesn't do like the way I would like for him to perform in those situations. I don't think I'm going to kill him. I'm prepared for it a little bit mentally, just because, mostly just because he's not been in that situation a ton of times. And I
Right.
think it's rare. There are quarterbacks who do it, but it's kind of notable for a reason when they do.
Right.
Yeah,
What I will add is that this is why I want this team to establish the running game, though. Maybe
hmm
not in this particular game, but I think down the stretch, it's going to be if they have designs on going deep in the playoffs. When you I see it with Michigan football right now, right? Bryce Underwood, true freshman quarterback, number one recruit in the nation, has had his ups and downs. You see the talent, but when this team in the third and fourth quarter, when he struggles, what does this Michigan football team do? You go back to the run, right? Because that's your bread and butter, and you know you can do it, and you create more space for him because of the threat of the run, right?
yeah,
You give him a chance to breathe, and then play action works a heck of a lot better because you're able to run the ball. And I just think if this offense is based on play action, if you really can elevate this running game just a little bit, then Sam Darnold has just a little bit more room to operate come playoff time. But if you're going to continue the way we've been going, and it's going to be it's not this isn't chuck and duck, right? We definitely try to run the ball, but it's not as effective as we thought it might be coming into the season. I don't think this offense is going to be able to perform really well in the playoffs if it's going to rely so much on pass production, not necessarily number of pass plays, but just pass production. They got to be
yeah,
able to run the ball.
yeah,
You have to have balance. You do. It's one of the reasons why Buffalo is hard to get behind at times. Is their running game can come and go. I think James Cook now is elite, but when Allen would struggle in the playoffs, some of that was they're running Devin Singletary and all these other guys in that backfield that just weren't great, and their offensive line wasn't a great blocking offensive line, and so it's balance is soup for this particular team. Balance is incredibly important. It just is.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Just a couple more points in terms of X factors I'm looking at for this game that I want to go over, and then we can get into predictions. And of course, if you
Mhm,
have something else, but um, so red zone for me is going to be something to watch
mhm,
because to this point, the Seahawks have been one of the best teams. I think top five when it comes to red zone offense, like the touchdown rate. However, the Rams defense is really stingy in terms
mhm,
of they got a real bend don't break. Like they will give you yards in
mhm.
between the 30s. And so I do think that like people like JSN will be able to eat for that reason because they don't really have the best secondary, despite the fact that it gets hyped up. They
Right.
really don't. They don't have a ton of dudes there.
The
But
safeties are
I'm
good.
just
Corner
curious,
safeties are good.
can they go from? I know they'll get to the red zone. Can they make those touchdowns? I think against an offense that's so potent, the Rams, they need touchdowns, not field goals.
Right. I agree. I agree because the Rams are going to score some touchdowns. You're going to have to match. You're going to have to match that. Again, they haven't really needed that running game as much, obviously, to be a two-loss team. But a game like this, where you're going against a stout defense and you're in the red zone, you have to be able to run the ball a bit. You just do because the field's going to shrink, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I love Jared Verse. I think Jared Verse is one of my favorite players in the NFL. He's there listed as strong side linebacker. He's an edge, but he's that tough, rugged, like kind of power edge that is. He was phenomenal last year, and he's a huge. He wreaks havoc on offenses, and I know our offensive line has played really well, but they're going to have to continue to play well because Verse ate the Seahawks up last year.
Yeah.
Um, and this defense does have Josiah Stewart, speaking of Michigan, right? He's an edge that they drafted, I think, in the third or fourth round this year. And he's had some big splash plays. And so they can create a pass rush, right? This team can rush the quarterback. And so the offensive line is going to have to hold up. Um, but yeah, red zone, both red zone offense and defense, obviously,
Mhm.
saying the obvious when we put it out there, but
Right.
our defense has held up really well in the red
Yeah.
zone.
True.
And now you're going to have to do it against McVay, Stafford, Nakua, Adams, right?
Right.
This is an elite, talented, smart, veteran offense that is going to be able to create some space to be able to throw the ball. And again, our defense is going to have to continue to step up in the way that it has.
I'm looking at you, Rick Woolen. I'm looking at you.
Yes,
I'm looking at you. He struggles
you
in divisional
know,
games, man. He
they're
struggles.
going
This
to
is different.
be There are going to be some double moves on Reek Woolen. I think you'll see some double moves on Witherspoon too because he's
Yeah.
so hyper aggressive,
Yeah.
right? And a route runner like Devonte Adams can, he can break your ankles if you're not on your p's and q's. So
Super two.
literally every aspect of this game is so interesting to me.
Yeah,
Can the
it's
Seahawks run right? Can the Seahawks run the ball? Is Olawatimi going to change the the nature of this offense at all? Robbie Oots, what's his impact on this running game? Does Sauerbert being out impact the ability to block because he was a good blocking tight end?
yes.
Are we gonna continue to see the same Sam Darnold that we've seen? And then defensively, all the things, right? Like, what does Jared Reed's absence do? Are we going to start to see the impact of not having Julian Love? Is Ernest Jones going to be at 100%? If he's not, what are they going to do? Do you play a hot Tyrese Knight instead? Like, it's just, are they going to be able to block Jared Verse? And if you can't, how does Sam Darnold react to pressure from the out, from the
Mhm.
perimeter? Because he's not always great under pressure. Like
Yeah.
it's just is Mike McDonald going to look like a completely different make it look like a completely different defense because he's going against McVay and the Rams, and this is why we brought him in. There are all these subplots in this game that are just like literally every aspect, every position has a fascinating subplot, and this is probably the NFL game that I've been most excited to watch in years
Yeah, for
because of
sure.
all of those things. This is a fascinating game. If you're a Hawks fan, if you're a casual Hawks fan, like this is a must see. This game.
I think if you're a football fan, this is a must see.
Yeah.
Honestly, just because of all the things that you just named. This is an exciting one for sure. Last thing I just
Mhm.
want to throw in here to your point about red zone defense for the Seahawks. If they can hold the Rams to some field goals, they got some
Hmm.
special team issues going on this
Yes, I
year.
was
They
going to
are
say the
one of the
same.
worst special teams in the league. They've got a new kicker, the thicker
Yep.
kicker. That's a
I
hilarious name,
saw that. That's
by the
funny.
way.
That's so funny.
That's such a hilarious name. But the thicker kicker has yet to make a field goal. I believe he's been good on extra points and whatnot, but he has not had the opportunity to make a field goal. So I would be looking to, if you got to, they're going to get their plays in. If you're going to buckle down there in that red zone, force special teams to be a factor. So that teams haven't been
Right.
able to force special teams to be a factor, against the Rams because they've been so dominant. Can the Seahawks force that to be a relevant factor in this game?
Right.
Yep.
I'm looking up his. I just want to see how big he is because I saw that nickname too, and it made me laugh.
Yeah, it's so funny, man.
Oh, they don't have
I
him,
love it.
huh? So on, they're clowning. 5'11", 243. There you go.
Wow. He is a big
Harrison
kicker.
Harrison Nevis. So Jared, who was it? Was it Jared Lorenzen? No, he was a quarterback. Remember, I don't know if you remember Sebastian Janikowski, the left-footed kicker that was at Florida State and then for the Raiders, but he was a big dude too. But yeah, it's hilarious. Um, so that was the one as far as DVOA goes, and as far as comparing these two teams on a more broad perspective, that is the one differentiator,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Seahawks number one DVOA team in DVOA, Rams number two.
Mm-hmm.
See overall, Seahawks number two special teams DVOA, and the Rams are number 23.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing that really does separate these two teams. And I think the Seahawks, kind of quietly have been a really consistent and, you know, the Seahawks punter is like the best punter in football. He's great. But I think that that Myers has been quietly very, very good.
Find some wood.
And
No, knock on it. Find some wood. It's still an odd season. Don't speak too quickly. Knock. I knock for you. All right. Continue. I just
but
needed to knock on
but
some
yeah,
wood.
I
I'm
just
nervous.
the other thing is that special teams can be better because Shaheed is a real threat, right,
Yeah.
to return kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's I don't want to say special teams is going to determine what happens in this game, but yeah, that is the one place where these teams are demonstratively different. I just want to see that kicker. I think it's hilarious.
with the
That's the
with the
best
close
name.
game, with a close
That's the
game,
best name.
that's oftentimes how these things factor in. It ends up being an
True.
extra point. It ends up being an extra, a field goal. I think the Seahawks lost the last game because I believe they missed an extra point that could have
Hmm.
potentially won them the game. So I think it always plays into it. It's not front and center. Given all the storylines of this game, it tends to
Right.
fall underneath
Right.
the wayside. But I think like you said, every single aspect. So I just wanted to cover like all of those aspects to me that I find very interesting.
Hmm.
I've struggled on a prediction. I don't know about you. Uh Man, this has been it's been hard, honestly. Like
Hmm.
I
So what I said in my notes is two evenly matched teams. Um, the Seahawks defense, I think, is the best unit in this game,
mm,
right? To see if you
mhm,
take both offenses and both defenses, I think the Seahawks defense is the best unit.
I say the
Um,
Rams offense.
the Rams offense, you said?
I think so.
They're good. They're good. I think the Seahawks defense has another level to go, and I think
Yes,
that
sir.
part of getting there is going, like I said, is going to be Coach
Yeah,
McDonald
that's fair.
play calling. So to me, that it's the best unit in this game. Unfortunately, if we're saying it's Darnold and McVay against, or I mean Stafford and McVay against Darnold and McDonald, I until Stafford and McVay prove otherwise, I think that combination is going to unfortunately win the game for the Rams. I see it 31-27 Rams. I think there is going to be scoring. I think both teams are going. It's just going to be a 15 round heavyweight fight, and because of the experience of Stafford and McVay, not home field advantage because they don't really have a home field advantage in LA, which is crazy. Um, but I'll take the Rams 31-27. But I don't think the Seahawks are going to embarrass themselves. I think they're going to show up. I think we're going to walk away from this game saying these two teams are still evenly matched, and it's going to be a bloodbath getting to the finish to see who wins the NFC West. Both will be playoff teams as well. Yeah, I said it. Seahawks are going to make it playoffs.
He's on Seahawks Island, guys.
No, 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 no,
Welcome.
no, no, no,
We
no, no,
want
no, 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 no. I swam. You know the when you were young and you go to the beach and you had to take the swim test to get to be able to go out to the dock, right? The lifeguard will watch you, and if you could swim like whatever it was, 6 poles or something, then you could go out to the dock to go to the diving board. I'm like sunbathing on that dock right now, but I haven't actually stepped foot on the beach yet on the island. So I'm looking at the island and I got a little bit closer. I got a lot closer than I was last week, but I ain't on the island yet. Not yet. Almost.
that sounds like denial to me because you just, I
That's
mean,
not
you said
denial at
they're a
all.
double digit win team. You said they're going to make the playoffs.
No,
I don't
I'm
know, man.
slower. Hey, at least I can admit I was wrong. Like I came on
Yes,
here and said I was wrong about
I
a whole bunch
agree.
of
I'm telling you, I think you're on Seahawks Island, but you aren't ready to claim that yet. It's all right. But I think you're already there. You're just,
no,
you know, you're
I have my Kenny Easley jersey on. I'm looking. I see all the bandwagon folks already there. But I can't quite get there yet, is what I'm saying. 31-27 Rams.
I struggle with this one. I I
Hmm.
I spent most of the week pretty much thinking the Seahawks were going to lose. I thought it was going to be a great game, close game. I thought the Seahawks will fall short. Something caught my attention though. Two things. I listened to the Hawk blogger Brian Nimhauser quite a bit
Hmm.
in his coverage, and he mentioned two things. Well, one, I actually saw this for myself when I was watching the Mike McDonald interview, and that's when he was talking about Mike McDonald was talking about the 13 personnel. He's asked about that, and he sort of makes this sly remark about how they don't really pass a lot out of 13 personnel anyway. He makes this like gleeful smile or whatever. Like
Hmm.
he just knows something that caught my attention because I'm going he know he's got a plan. Like that looks
Hmm.
like he's got a plan.
Hmm.
Um, and then also just again, Brian Nimhausen sort of mentioned just as he's been in the locker room, he sort of just felt this quiet confidence, almost he mentioned that they feel like they have a sense or like they know something that they're gonna reveal at the game. I can see Mike McDonald having something up his
It's that
sleeve.
defensive play calling. I'm telling you, he's coming out
Yeah, I
with
can
all
see
kinds
him
of new stuff.
the way his mind works. I can see him having something up his sleeve and just me seeing what this defense has been and what he's been able to turn into. Because, I mean, as much respect as I have for a Ty Okada or Drake Thomas now, those guys were nobodies. And he was just, and Mike McDonald was just able to stick them in a system and make them look almost like all pros.
Ty Okada's
I
still a
want to
nobody.
lean. So,
I said Ty Okada's still a nobody, but keep going.
he's playing
He
like a
play-
top 10 safety right now,
Hey,
right?
everybody gets lucky every once in a while.
He's
It's
playing
gonna
like a
be
top
okay.
10 safety. Now, I agree with you. Outside of this system, he probably be trash. I mean, who's talking about Geno Stone anymore? Like nobody, because
Right, right,
he was a Mike
right.
McDonald.
Baltimore Ravens, yeah.
Yep. So I think this situation is similar. But anywho, um, I think I'm gonna go lean in on the win. I am not confident about this at all. But
Hmm.
I just get the sense that Mike McDonald knows something and has a plan. Now, the plan may not work. And so that's where my lack of confidence
Right.
wavers. I'm really tempted to put a loss here. But I'm going to go 27-24 Seahawks. Stay
Hope
undefeated on
so.
the road this
I
year.
hope so. And it's good. What's interesting too, before we get out of here, is so when I'm thinking to myself, so what could Coach McDonald do defensively different than what he already does, right? And some of it is, walking 6, 7 guys up to the line and not knowing who's blitzing, right? A lot of teams like to do that. No, the Brian Flores stuff. Another one is, are we going to see the off-ball linebackers blitzing more? Are we going to see I think Eamon Wari and Spoon are going to be doing some different stuff in this game, specifically Eamon Wari, right? I think
Yeah.
he's been blitzing a ton. It's super interesting to see how he's been used. You see him in the backfield a ton.
Yeah.
Does he mask that? Eamon Wari played a lot of deep safety in uh, at South Carolina? Like, are we going to see him drop back a little? It's just, again, yet another thing to watch in this game. This game is just going to be so fascinating. This is the kind of game where I'm going to want to go back and watch it like 3 times, right?
Yeah,
And
agreed.
if you have, YouTube TV, you can, and you record it, you can go in and you can fast forward through, between plays and watch a game in 45 minutes to an hour, which is super fun. Me, like I said, I'll probably watch this game 3 times, not even for the podcast, just because it's going to be so fascinating. This game is going to be a lot of fun. I hope it's not a blowout. I hope it's a close game with a ton of strategy. I
I'm
think it
cool with
will
a
be.
blowout if it's the Seahawks blowing them out, but
Sure. Oh, for sure. Yes, for sure. For
All
sure.
right, Tino, let's go ahead and get it out of here. If we don't have anything else, hopefully we will be able to get together, record this reaction. Hopefully, we're doing a reaction to a Seahawks win. But either way, we will be back. Tell people where they can find you in the meantime.
You can find me on Blue Sky at Tino Junior 20. Standard, lots of baseball stuff. We can talk Seahawks if you want. Can't wait for the game. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
All right. Be sure to follow the show on X at Seahawks365. Also follow us on Blue Sky at Seahawks360. If you want to be doing live tweets like that, interacting with folks, so be sure to check us out there. In the meantime, that's it. That's all the time we have for today. We're out. As always,
Go Hawks.